This video examines MAiD, digital ID, and the rise of a system with no rights. Canada is expanding MAiD while also building centralized digital administration. When life and death decisions meet systems with less human accountability, the vulnerable are at risk. Two dangerous directions are occurring simultaneously. Direction 1 is the continued expansion and normalization of MAiD, which is state-facilitated death. Direction 2 is the steady construction of a digital administrative system where life is routed through databases, portals, and algorithmic screening. Together, these developments are far worse and multiply the danger when human accountability and rights-based challenge are removed. This is not just a healthcare issue, it is a governance, rule of law, and human dignity issue. It is a warning about what happens when vulnerable people are placed inside systems designed for speed, compliance, and administrative efficiency, rather than protection and real justice. MAiD has expanded far beyond what Canadians were told. In 2024 alone, there were 16,499 MAiD provisions, accounting for about 5.1% of all deaths nationwide. State-facilitated death is no longer a rare exception. It is now a major end-of-life pathway. The most alarming feature is the speed. The most alarming feature is the speed of MAiD provisions. Ontario Review data reported 219 same-day or next-day MAiD deaths in 2023. Some people are now assessed and killed within hours after the mandatory 10-day reflection period was removed in 2021. Official case reviews are revealing just how dangerous that change has been. Case 1, Mrs. B, involved a woman who initially requested MAiD, then explicitly withdrew her request, citing religious beliefs and a desire for palliative care. Despite this, a second and third virtual assessment followed, and the lethal injection occurred the same day. The first assessor documented possible coercion. The review committee raised serious concerns about Mrs. B's case, including inadequate exploration of caregiver pressure, failure to document voluntariness, lack of attention to spiritual needs, and insufficient exploration of palliative options. A woman who withdrew her request for MAiD still ended up receiving it. Case 2, Mr. C, involved a man with metastatic cancer experiencing rapid cognitive decline, who was delirious and heavily sedated. Consent was obtained by the provider vigorously rousing him and interpreting minimal gestures as consent. A second assessor conducted a virtual evaluation, and the injection occurred the same day. The committee identified serious problems in Mr. C's case, including no structured capacity assessment tool, insufficient medication clearance time, and heavy reliance on prior statements rather than present consent. Consent was effectively extracted from a patient who was barely conscious. Case 3, Mr. A was a man in his 90s with alcohol relapse, suicidal ideation, and involuntary psychiatric admission after a COVID infection. Assessment failures included virtual and no in-person evaluations, and psychiatric insight not being meaningfully integrated. He was assessed while bedbound and involuntarily detained, and the lethal injection occurred the next day at home. Committee concerns for Mr. A's case included inadequate eligibility documentation and lack of psychiatric evaluation. Systemic red flags emerging include external pressure from caregivers, weak consent verification, insufficient independent assessment, and ignoring social vulnerability factors like isolation and poverty. When social suffering goes unaddressed and death becomes easier than care, the system begins to steer outcomes. That is the warning emerging from these official reviews. Now, add a digital ID system, and the danger multiplies. Digital governance systems are expanding to include digital identity frameworks, centralized databases, and automated eligibility screening. This shift is presented as efficiency, but it often means less power for citizens. A digital-first system changes the balance between the citizen and the state. Practical consequences of a digital-first system include no face-to-face challenge, no local discretion, and no meaningful ability to confront the authority making the decision. When combined with MAiD, the risk increases dramatically, potentially leading to same-day lethal injections, weakened safeguards, and minimal scrutiny of coercion. A digital system without rights is not neutral. The issue is, what happens when digital systems replace rights-based protections and become a control architecture? Individuals may be trapped inside systems they cannot challenge, making it profoundly dangerous when the system authorizes death. One action plan is to slow down and reverse the move to digital control. This includes keeping cash for transactions, refusing digital-only systems by asking for paper options, and maintaining physical paper records for important documents. Further steps include obtaining full copies of your medical records and challenging digital-only municipal systems. Also, build non-digital community networks and learn the legal tools available to challenge government decisions. A final warning: 2 powerful systems are converging in Canada. One authorizes death, the other centralizes control through digital infrastructure. If these systems merge, vulnerable people may be placed in processes they cannot challenge.